When looking at the world we are living in, I often notice a strange paradox. We possess scientific and technological advances beyond anything our ancestors could have imagined. Yet anxiety, tension, and loneliness seem more pervasive than ever. Something is not quite right in the way we define happiness. Many of you, especially young people, are spending most of your lives chasing external values, money, status, and social recognition. We believe that once we reach a certain financial milestone, our minds will naturally find rest, but reality proves otherwise. Material wealth may soothe the senses, but it can never heal a mind that is in panic. I often say that human happiness has two levels. The first is happiness based on sensory experiences, good food, beautiful clothes, pleasant sounds. But this type of happiness is extremely short-lived and entirely dependent on external conditions. When those conditions disappear, we collapse. The second level, far more sustainable, is inner peace. If your mind is filled with fear, anger, or selfishness, then even if you are sitting in the most luxurious palace, you will still suffer. Conversely, a person with a stable inner life and a heart full of compassion can smile even in the most difficult circumstances. The difference between humans and other animals lies in our capacity for deep analysis and reflection. An animal feels satisfied when it is fed and sheltered. Humans, however, have complex minds. We dwell in the past, worry about the future, and constantly compare ourselves with others. This intelligence, if not guided by a warm heart, becomes the source of anxiety. We have focused too much on educating the intellect and forgotten to train the heart. A cold intelligence produces weapons of mass destruction or unjust economic systems. Only when we connect wisdom with compassion do we find a true foundation for peace. Peace is not merely the absence of war or conflict. True peace is an inner state. It begins with understanding how emotions work. Why do you feel anger? Why do you feel jealousy? If you look deeply, you will see that all negative emotions arise from a distorted perception of reality and excessive attachment to the personal ego. When this attachment loosens, space opens in the mind, and peace begins to grow. I do not ask you to believe in any religion. Peace is not a religious privilege. It is a human quality, like breathing or heartbeat. We often think that changing the world requires political revolutions or major structural reforms, but the world is made of individuals. If individuals do not find peace within themselves, how can we expect lasting global peace? Each of us is responsible for our own mind. Do not wait for someone else to bring you peace. Do not expect a supernatural force to solve problems created by humans themselves. The key lies in recognizing interdependence. No one exists alone. My happiness depends on you, and your happiness is deeply connected to the environment around you. When you realize that harming others is harming yourself, compassion naturally arises. This is not a moral doctrinate, it's a logical truth. This understanding can guide us through the maze of modern instability toward a profound stillness, where barriers of race, religion, and status dissolve in the shared breath of humanity. This inner stillness is not separate from daily life. You may be a student, an engineer, or a scientist, but first and foremost, you are a living being seeking happiness and wishing to avoid suffering. When you bring this understanding into your work and interactions even with strangers who begin building a new foundation for humanity. A foundation built not on lifeless concrete, but on resonance, between hearts capable of understanding and sharing. As we journey deeper into inner exploration, a difficult truth emerges. Although everyone longs for peace, the world remains trapped in cycles of violence and anxiety. To understand this, we must perform psychological surgery within our own consciousness. Conflict does not begin with gunfire, it begins with divisive ideas in the human mind. The deepest root of opposition is the habit of dividing humanity into us and them. This mindset may have helped tribes survive in the past, but in the 21st century it has become obsolete and dangerous. We now live in a fully globalized reality. The economy of one nation is the lifeblood of another. The environment of one region affects the breath of the entire planet. Yet the human mind remains trapped in outdated notions of national, religious, and racial boundaries. When we focus only on my group, we create psychological distance. That distance becomes fertile ground for fear and suspicion. Once others are seen as them, aggression becomes easier to justify. This division is reinforced by a modern education system severely lacking in inner values. Universities around the world prioritize external knowledge. We produce brilliant minds experts who can solve complex equations or manage massive corporations, yet leave them helpless before emotional storms. An educated person without inner cultivation becomes a danger to society, possessing powerful tools but using them to serve greed and selfishness. Modern education fills the mind but forgets the heart. We need a shift towards secular ethics values, not based on religious doctrine but on logic, science, and an understanding of human nature. Fear is a reaction of an ego that feels threatened. Clinging to the idea of a fixed, independent self keeps us in constant defense. We fear losing reputation, wealth, or relevance. Fear narrows our vision, making us focus on short-term gains while ignoring the bigger picture. A fearful person can never be truly free or creative. To overcome fear, we must investigate its nature rather than escape it. Ask yourself, who is the self that is afraid? Does what I cling to truly exist independently and permanently? This inquiry must be conducted with the spirit of a scientist. When conflict arises, analyze interests objectively. Instead of letting emotions lead, use reason to see that personal interest lies within the collective interest. If I harm you for advantage, I destroy the peaceful environment I need to survive. Understanding interdependence is not abstract theory, it is the most intelligent survival strategy. We must learn to listen not only with our ears, but with deep empathy, recognizing that behind aggressive actions often lies a wounded and frightened soul. Rigid thinking is the strongest wall separating humans from one another. Only humility, the willingness to admit our perspective may be incomplete, creates space for dialogue and reconciliation. This is not compromise of principles, but an expansion of wisdom. True freedom arises when we dare to release attachment to the small ego and merge into the flow of universal compassion. When we live in service, fear dissolves like mist under sunlight, with nothing to defend. Only opportunities to understand remain. This is inner disarmamenta, voluntary laying down of anger and suspicion to meet one another in shared humanity. Only when individuals disarm their inner conflicts can we envision a world without gunfire, where differences become richness rather than causes of war. This transformation requires a deeper understanding of reality itself, a point where Eastern philosophy and modern physics meet. Quantum physics reveals that no object exists independently. Reality is relational and dependent on observation. This mirrors the Buddhist concept of emptiness, not nothingness, but the absence of independent existence. We are not isolated entities, but continuous flows of interdependence. Understanding this dissolves the illusion of separation, the root of suffering. Compassion then ceases to be a moral option and becomes a necessity. Harming others is harming the ecosystem we rely on. Compassion is the highest expression of intelligence, a science of the soul guiding us to live in harmony with reality. In the modern world of pressure and instability, cultivating compassion is essential for mental and physical health. A compassionate mind stabilizes emotions and strengthens immunity. Thus, compassion is not only ethical, it is scientific. Education must therefore integrate intellect and heart. We need scientists with compassion, economists with ethics, and leaders who feel the pain of the people. Secular ethics should be central to education, not to create saints, but responsible, peaceful citizens. The future of humanity depends not on technology alone, but on whether intelligence and compassion can unite. Artificial intelligence may advance rapidly, but the human heart must remain the guiding center. All genuine change begins with a silent revolution within the mind of each individual.